My dad had exactly one rule he never explained, and I resented him for it until I was 27. My dad was the kind of man who fixed other people's cars for free on Saturdays. Quiet, patient, never raised his voice. He didn't give lectures. He didn't push. He let me skip college applications the fall I was too depressed to fill them out, and he let me move back home at 24 without asking a single question about what went wrong. He was easy about almost everything, except one thing. Every Sunday night, no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing, I had to sit down at the kitchen table with him for exactly 20 minutes. Not for dinner, not for a talk, just 20 minutes at the table. No phones, no TV. He didn't require conversation. Sometimes we sat in complete silence. Sometimes he'd hum. Sometimes I'd do homework and he'd read the paper. But those 20 minutes were non-negotiable. He never explained why. When I asked, he'd shrug and say, "It's just what we do." That was the whole answer, every time. By the time I was 13, I was convinced it was the strangest thing any parent had ever come up with. My friends' dads took them to games. My friends' dads gave them driving lessons and awkward speeches about girls. My dad wanted 20 silent minutes at a kitchen table. It felt like being trapped in a waiting room with someone who happened to share my last name. In high school, I started resenting it openly. I'd sit down at 8 p.m. sharp, arms crossed, staring at the wall, letting the silence feel like punishment. He never reacted. He'd just sip his coffee and sit there with me until the microwave clock ticked past the 20-minute mark. Then he'd nod once and go back to whatever he was doing. That nod drove me insane. It felt like he was checking a box I couldn't see. The summer before I left for community college, I started skipping Sundays on purpose. I'd stay at friends' houses. I'd take extra shifts at the grocery store. I'd come home at 8:30 and slam my bedroom door without looking at him. He never chased me. He never guilt-tripped me. He'd just be sitting at that table alone when I walked past on my way upstairs. Coffee in front of him, the chair across from him empty. He'd look up, give me that same quiet nod, and go back to reading. That was somehow worse than if he'd yelled. I moved out at 19. I stopped coming home most weekends. I told myself I was too busy. The truth was that I couldn't stand the guilt of walking past that kitchen table. My mom died when I was 7, so it had always been just the two of us in that house, and something about the empty chair across from him made me feel like I failed at being a son. So I avoided it. I saw him on holidays, on birthdays. I called him every couple of weeks and asked about the weather and the truck and the neighbor's dog. He never once asked me to come home for a Sunday. Not one time in 8 years. 2 years ago, in April, I got a call from his neighbor. My dad had collapsed in the driveway. Stroke, massive one. He was alive when the ambulance got there, but by the time I flew in the next morning, he was on a ventilator, and the doctors were using the word unlikely in a way that felt final. I sat in that hospital room for 4 days. I held his hand. I talked to him about everything I could remember. I apologized for things he'd probably forgotten. I told him I was sorry I stopped coming home on Sundays. I told him I didn't know why the table had mattered so much. I begged him to wake up so I could ask. He died on a Sunday, 8:17 p.m. I remember because I looked at the clock when the monitor changed, and my first thought was we would have been 3 minutes in. I went back to the house to start sorting through his things. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I found myself sitting at the kitchen table for the first time in years, just staring at the empty chair across from me. That's when I noticed a small drawer on my side of the table that I'd never opened. Not once in all the Sundays I'd sat there. I opened it. Inside was a stack of index cards, hundreds of them, held together with rubber bands. Each one was dated. The oldest was from the week after my mom died. I picked one up at random. It said August 12th. He didn't want to sit today. I let him bring his Legos. He built a spaceship. He is going to be okay. I picked up another one. March 3rd. He is angry with me tonight. He didn't say a word. That's all right. He showed up. I sat there and read them for 6 hours. Every card was about a Sunday. Every card was a small observation about me, what I wore, what I seemed worried about, whether I laughed, whether I looked tired. Some of them were just one sentence. He is here. That is enough for tonight. The last card in the stack was dated 3 days before his stroke. It said, I haven't sat across from him in 8 years. I still set the table in case he ever comes back. I'm 29 now. I have a son. He just turned 1. He can't sit at a table yet. But I already know what I'm going to do every Sunday at 8 p.m. for the rest of my life. And I already know exactly what the empty chair is going to feel like on the nights he stops showing up.